isn't getting old. But the stuff is like, oh, well, I guess it always has annoyed me, so it's not me being old. But, like, I don't understand why. I've just never understood, like, why. Why? Why? I don't think I've ever had the inclination to do that ever in my life. Writing on stuff is one thing. Writing that stuff is another thing.
Yeah, enjoy. So, where's my earplugs? Enjoy your flight, John.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. Over there.
I've been wanting to do this for years. feelings. I don't think I can talk about it much right now because I'm like, I don't even know. I feel weird being in here. I need to get dressed and go. But it wasn't bad, I'll tell you that much right now. Okay, I want to talk about my sensory deprivation tank experience really quickly because there's a lot to say. So it was about 3 or 4 years ago that I first heard about float tanks or sensory deprivation tanks and that experience. It was probably through Joe Rogan's podcast. But I did a little research because I was still in Saskatoon at the time. There was one float place there, and they really advertised it as this great thing for creative people. They had like a space where you could paint and stuff after a float. They just talked about how it really opened you up to like these creative ideas and things. Other things that I heard were that it was really great for anxiety, for like de-stressing and for just alleviating anxiety and you know, again, just accessing parts of you emotionally and mentally that maybe you weren't able to access in your regular life. In that aspect, it kind of almost sounded like, like doing mushrooms or something, and the way that people talk about that. So it was something that I wanted to do for a long time. I never did it. Partially the reason was cost. I mean, I could spend that much money that one float would be like probably every month on other things like books and music, but they're little things that add up rather than just like boom, like one thing. But anyway, so cost was something that I was just like and I haven't tried it. I've wanted to. I've had it on my mind. I've never not wanted to try this. So unfortunately, I went in with some expectations, but I mean, I think everyone does because you're gonna go do something, and you've heard about the activity and why it's something you've decided, I think this would be good for me because these reasons: alleviating anxiety, more openness, and accessing parts of me maybe I wasn't open to before. It's kind of like meditation in that way. I even heard there would be some maybe possible physical benefits of just like getting like, I don't know, it was dumb. Like I didn't do a lot of research, but I mean, some people were like, oh yeah, especially if you are like overweight and you put a lot of stress on your muscles and joints and stuff, and like it can just help relieve some of that. And I was like, okay, well, added bonus, whatever. So anyway, I go to Calgary. Every place is different, you know what I mean? Like I didn't research that specific place that much or anything, but they didn't have like a pod. They had like a tank, and it was quite tall. I didn't touch the sides of it unless I wanted to, and I like pushed off a bit to touch the sides. They had the option of having like some ambient chill music in the tank, also like a light purple like fuchsia light in there. I went with just complete darkness and no music. Whole point of this is sensory deprivation, right? So like I was like, hey, I want to have no senses going on and just be right up in here, which to me was like, a little bit scary. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to find in here. Like, I don't know, like, what's going to happen. There's one thing that I heard, too, where people were saying, like, oh, you know what, like, you feel like you're floating. Like, you feel like you're floating in air, not floating in water, because the water is supposed to be set to your body temperature or something so that you don't really feel the water. I will say, when I got in, I kind of just, like, got in and just, like, whoop, and, like, starfished, like, right away, and was just like, oh, I guess I'm floating now. So it took me like 10 to 15 minutes to kind of adjust. I'm like, this is a weird, cool feeling. I was just like, I don't know about this. Like, it took me that time to adjust. But I will say, like, it kind of felt like if there was like a chalk outline of my body, like there's like a thick line around my body. I didn't feel wet because of the temperature and stuff. I guess it just didn't feel wet, but it felt like I felt something. It wasn't like I felt nothing, like I was floating in air. It felt wet when I like touched myself with my wet hands or arm or whatever. That's when I felt like wetness. But anyway, so that was a thing. Like I said, 10-15 minutes, I was just kind of like getting my bearings and whatever. It was supposed to be 60 minutes, by the way. So about after 15 minutes or so, I was kind of like, hey, I could just do this at home in the bathtub. Like, I kind of felt like, this is kind of a waste. Like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I don't know what's happening. Like, I don't know. Like, it just didn't feel like it was doing anything for me. And again, because I have an expectation that it would do something for me, that it would clear my mind, or that I would get all these amazing thoughts, or I would have some epiphany or something. So I just was kind of like bored, and I kind of wanted to get out, but I wasn't going to get out. I wanted to do the full 60 minutes. I wanted to just see what would happen. So I kind of got bored, and I was kind of just like restless and whatever. And I tried meditating, and that didn't take. And I've heard from more than one person being like, yeah, your thoughts are just going to go from one thing to the other. You're not going to really have a lot of control. And I didn't know, what would happen for me, because everyone's going to be different in that scenario, I think, with what I've heard. And that makes sense to me, that everyone reacts differently. So I was like, okay, well, I tried meditating, and it didn't stick. My thoughts would just go somewhere else, which is kind of the point, I guess. So I was like, oh, maybe, like, this seems like boring right now. I mean, whatever. But afterwards, maybe it'll feel great, or something will happen, or whatever. I also started to get a little bit anxious. Like, there's some people that get really anxious, like, the first couple times, or it's not for them, because it does the opposite of alleviate their anxiety. Maybe because it's kind of like claustrophobic, or because you don't have any stimulation, right? What is the point? But until you're in that scenario, you don't really know how you're going to handle it, I think. So I only got anxious a couple times, but it's because I felt like I couldn't breathe, just because it was really warm. Like, it was kind of warm in there, warmer than I'm used to breathing. And I was also not feeling super great, like I had a cold and stuff too, so, which I still have a little bit of. But yeah, so that's the only time I got anxious, and it didn't last long. It just happened a couple times. But for about a half an hour, I was just kind of like bored, trying to like reset myself, getting bored again, whatever. The last, so I mentioned it was only supposed to be 60 minutes, but it ended up being 75 minutes. It didn't finish for me when it was supposed to. I could have got out, but I didn't know the time. So that's the other thing. About halfway through, my back kind of started to feel sore, and I was getting restless, and then like my limbs kind of felt like a little muscle soreness too, which I thought was weird. They were just a little achy, and I was like, oh, okay, that's not a great thing. But yeah, the last half hour, not 15 minutes, last half hour, I got really restless, but I was like happy. I started to feel happy, and I was like kind of pushing like against the walls of the tank, and just kind of like swaying back and forth and like feeling the walls of the tank. I wasn't anxious or restless in an anxious way. I was just kind of like bored and just didn't know what to do. And earlier, like for over half the thing, I was trying to like meditate, trying to like whatever, it just wasn't working. And anyway, I got happy. My thoughts definitely kept going everywhere. I didn't have any like great creative thoughts or any like really inward like epiphanies or like realizations, nothing like that. I just was getting, it didn't happen. Like, there was a range of things that happened for me, for sure. But it wasn't any, like, crazy, whoa, like, type thing that I was expecting in some nature. So, anyway, finally, the lights came on, which is my signal to get out, so that I was done. So I got out. It was a little weird to just be on two legs again, and like, oh, gravity's a thing. But then, yeah, I don't know. I felt pretty happy again, but I don't know if that was like, I was pretty happy that day generally anyway. I'd been definitely having a more anxious week than my norm was. So I don't think the float like really alleviated that at all. It didn't help or hurt. So this is all coming to the fact that I don't know if like I want to do it again sometime. After a second time, I don't know if I will do it again. It depends on the experience of this next time that I do it. I'm not sold on it for me personally, because it didn't seem to do a lot for me, and that could have been because of the mental state I was in at the time, the expectations that I had. But I mean, the expectations are just like, the whole reason I wanted to do it was because I heard that good things can happen, and if good things didn't necessarily happen for me, then why would I keep doing it, right? Especially with the expense that it could be. But anyway, I gave it a shot, and it's an experience. I don't know, like if any of those possible benefits sound appealing to you, I would say give it a shot, because I know that it really helps people. I think it is not just a placebo effect. I think that putting yourself in that environment can really do some things and maybe help you access some parts of yourself or whatever that maybe you couldn't normally. And even if it is a placebo effect, if it works, right? So it just didn't really do much for me, but maybe next time it will. I don't think I'll try it a third time if that second time doesn't do anything. So next time I try it, I'll give you an update. But if you've ever had one of those experiences, I would love to hear about it. I didn't really, like I said, I didn't do a lot of research ahead of time. I heard things just kind of from people, from podcasts, from a little bit of research, but nothing crazy. And I went into it with like an open mind of like I didn't go into it thinking that nothing would happen. I went into it with the opposite. I don't know. Like I said, maybe it was me, but I don't know. I wasn't trying to force an experience. I was trying to just really let one happen, and I didn't really feel like I got a lot out of it. But that's where I'm at with that. So made some more jewelry today. Kind of felt like branching out rather than just doing like those tips, those big tips. So these New York ones, New York style tips, I only had these 3. I don't have very many just because I use different like Astros and fat caps and stuff, and I don't use the New York style very often. But I'll tell you, these 3 were like a hell of a time to like pierce through them in the sidewall like that. Just because you had to get through this little guy here too. Anyway, so this is the only one I have right now. I don't know if I'm going to call it, I think Triple Crown is what I'm calling it. Anyway, I don't know yet if I want to sell it or not, but I made it, and it's the only one I have right now. So that'll be something. And then, let's see if I can do this with one hand. This is the thing I was most excited about, which also took some work, but I have a whole bunch of paint tubes, and a lot of them, like, I just paint really messy, and I'm grabbing like tubes of paint with painty hands, and so they end up with like paint on them and like whatever else. Some of them are pretty clean, and some of them are really messy in a different way than this one is. But I was like, you know what? I want like a really long, dangly, like bigger thing, and I was like, it looks better with a paint shirt, but. So these golden acrylic tubes, I probably have like 20 to 25 other ones. Some of them are like exploded and stuff. And I'll probably show them in another video or something because they're in the other studio. I could walk over there right now, but I'm not going to. Anyway, again, so this one is not for sale. This is the first one I made. But I'll have other ones that are for sale. Obviously, this stuff is kind of geared more towards people who are artists because it's like artist supplies that I'm turning into jewelry, and I don't know if other people dig it, then that's cool. But usually, I'm assuming only people that are like really into art and use these products will enjoy wearing them. But I don't know. Like I said, you check my Facebook and Instagram for that kind of stuff, or send me a message or something if that's something you feel like you might want, or you know someone else might be interested in it, because I don't really think many people are doing this type of thing. So. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. It's like fun, busy work, and like crafty, and I've never really been into that. But I like wearing it, and like I know there are some other people that I know that like really are enjoying it as well. So anyway,